don't know me, I am called IvyCrown, at least when I look like this. Well, kind of like this. And today I'm going to be talking about how Superman's powers work and where they come from and all that jazz. Okay, first off, for all of you here who are hoping that I'm going to explain why Superman can fly, I'm terribly sorry we won't be doing that in this video. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to research all of the minuscule, tiny traces of possibility that Superman can fly and why, so that's just not happening today. If I do find something, we'll make another video and you can check us out. But for right now, we're going to talk about his many other powers. So according to comic book and movie lore, Superman's powers come from Earth's yellow sun. Because his original planet, Krypton, had a red sun. But that doesn't explain why Superman didn't die from radiation poisoning, become crippled, sterilized, or melt. So this is where the theory starts. We know that other Kryptonians have the same ability to absorb the sun's radiation, older Kryptonians and younger ones than Superman. So this would indicate that it is something that all Kryptonians could do, and it also indicates that this is something they could do back on Krypton. So on Krypton, they have a red sun, which is different than the yellow sun, in that it gives off red light rather than white light. Red light is the lowest energy on the light spectrum. See, it's over here. Whereas white light encompasses the entire thing, including blue light, which has the most energy. That's why you shouldn't be looking at your computer before you go to sleep. So don't be watching YouTube at 3 in the morning.
Boo.
That was not helpful, Sunshine. Now, presently the only organisms that we know of that can absorb sunlight happen to do this through something similar to chlorophyll, and I don't know about you all, but I think it's fairly safe to say I am 99.999% certain that Superman is not a plant. So what I think is that he is a silicon-carbon-based life form rather than just a carbon-based one. I say silicon-carbon-based because our best solar cells right now have a silicon outer layer with a carbon interior to process the energy. Now we're going to diverge very slightly into molecules of life for a minute here. For those of you who don't know, carbon is the element considered for life, or called organic sometimes, whatever the terminology you want to use, doesn't matter. Carbon's considered this because it has 4 bonding locations, meaning it can bond in 4 different directions and thereby create polymers like muscle tissue and skin, which other elements can't. But we do find, if we go down the periodic table, that some other elements do have 4 bonding sites. So if you look, it can go down. The next element to do that would be silicon. So I'm sure some of you are Googling this right now and have actually paused the video to do it, or you're gonna wait till afterwards, but I'll save you the trouble. When the idea of silicon-based life forms was initially proposed, first of all, we haven't discovered any, so still theoretical. But when it was proposed in 1989, a college professor debunked it. He stated that when silicon is in the presence of oxygen, it doesn't form a gas like it does with carbon. You've all heard of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, see, gases. But silicon forms a hard substance called silica, also known as sand. So it looks like this, or this, or this. You can't see it, it's glass. But anyways, you can't exactly continue to function as an organism if you have this hard buildup. Which is why I don't think Superman's a purely silicon-based life form. He has to have both carbon and silicon in order to make this work out. Okay, so we've just established the fact that Superman can absorb a ton of energy from the sun. He probably doesn't even need to eat or breathe. As of the New 52, he doesn't need to breathe. but that's not in the movies yet. So, anyways, he has this excess energy lying around, which part of that is going to go into his super strength and his super speed. But actually what I want to talk about is how he gets rid of the extra. That would be his heat vision. Now, heat is the most inefficient form of energy, but in this case it actually works really well. It's how he's getting rid of all this excess as fast as possible. He does this through heat vision, although his external body temperature is probably hotter than most human beings as well. In order to combat all this heat that's being generated and given off, his body he is constantly trying to lower his core temperature. When he breathes fast enough, the air hasn't had time to warm up coming out through his lungs. So his breath is freeze breath. So that covers two of his lesser exciting powers, I guess. They don't talk about those much in the movies, and that's more of a special effects thing. It's not really easy to animate heat vision, and most people aren't interested in freeze breath nowadays. But such is life. Okay, so temperature is also going to come into the fact that he still is probably producing some silica. I'm sure some of you are already complaining about that. So I'm going to address that right here, right now. Because he has this excess heat, it's possible that that's helping break down the silica. Now, again, some of you are probably going to go look up, but I'll tell you right now. Silica's melting point is over 1,000 degrees Celsius. I think it's safe to say that Superman's temperature is not over 1,000 degrees Celsius because he would constantly be causing things to spontaneously combust, like his clothing, or Lois when he touches her, or the ground when he walks on it. So no, Superman's not 1,000 degrees. But what he is, though, is a higher temperature than normal human beings, so that's putting pressure on the silica. And in order to lower the melting point of silica, you need to add some other catalyst or some other thing to put pressure on it. Typically, what that would be acid. So this one's a little bit further out there, but stay with me. I'd like to propose that Superman has slightly acidic blood. For those of you who don't know, human blood is a 7 on the acid or the pH scale, meaning it is completely neutral. Our bodies don't function well when it's too acidic, which is numbers 1 through 6, or too basic, numbers 8 through 14, I believe. Okay, so I'm saying that while Superman may not be a 7, I'm also not saying he's a 1. He's probably somewhere like 4 or 5. That would also put pressure on the silica and allow his body to melt it down and then pass it out, naturally. Now, I do have some evidence to suggest that Superman's blood might be acidic. We know that Superman's blood is dangerous throughout the comics, and it has caused harm to people, and Batman's commented this on a number of occasions. But typically when Superman's bleeding, we have other problems. One of the most notable times Superman was forced to bleed was when he was fighting Doomsday, and then he died. See, there's typically when Superman's bleeding, there are much bigger problems than, we have alien blood on the loose. So, yeah, we don't know whether or not it's acidic, but I'm going to say it's slightly acidic, and that does make sense. Okay, we've covered so far heat vision, freeze, breath, but now we're going to talk about his other abilities. And for that, we're going to go back to Krypton. So Krypton was orbiting this red sun. Now, a red sun is typically considered to be older than a yellow sun because it's used up more of its hydrogen to the helium conversion. It's a very complicated reaction that I'm not going to go into. If you want to do that, I'm sure you can Google it or type it into the YouTube search bar. I'm sure there are plenty of other people who will talk at length about the sun for you. But because it was an older sun, it's also expanded, which means it has a much stronger gravitational pull. It was therefore much harder for the Kryptonians to move if they didn't have this extremely thick muscle density. That's why Superman's so strong and why he's so fast. It's also the reason the Kryptonians probably developed their enhanced senses. Now, we all know that Superman has X-ray vision, supervision, and super hearing. These come from the fact that the planet had such a low light count. Red light is the dimmest light as well as the least energized light. So they needed to have incredibly good vision. And they needed to have incredibly good hearing to make up for when they couldn't see. So their X-ray vision was probably just a compensation. Besides, lots of other animals can see on the light spectrum where we can't. So it's not that far of a stretch to say that some species could see in X-ray vision. So that's my theory on why Superman has all of his powers, except flight. But anyways, so if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. If you have comments or questions or just want to say hello, go to the comments section. Also, please check out our website, fangirlhelp.weebly.com. It's where we post most of our typical stuff. We don't do a lot of videos because they're harder to put together and we don't have as much time. So a lot of our stuff's in written form, but we do have a lot of great things going on over there. And we'd love to see you over at the website. So that's it, I guess. IvyCrown out.